Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Alex, and today we have a very exciting episode lined up for you. Since the new year has just started, we thought it would be the perfect time to talk about New Year's resolutions. Why do people make them? Why do they often break them? And how can we actually make goals that stick? To explore all of this, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Mia. Hey, Mia. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Alex. And Happy New Year to all our listeners. I'm so glad we're talking about resolutions today because honestly, every year I make a long list, and every year I end up following maybe half of it for the first month.
You're not alone, Mia. I think that's the case for most people. January begins with a burst of motivation, gyms are full, people are reading self-help books, saving money, trying new hobbies, but by February, reality sets in.
Exactly. But maybe that's why having a conversation about it helps. If we really understand why resolutions matter and how to set them properly, maybe we can make this year different.
That's the spirit. So let's dive into it. To start with, Mia, do you usually set resolutions every year?
Yes, I do. For me, it's like a tradition. Even when I was a teenager, I used to sit down on December 31st with a notebook and write out all the things I wanted to do in the coming year. Sometimes it was something small, like drinking more water. Other times it was big, like learn Spanish or save money to travel abroad.
That sounds familiar. I think many of us treat resolutions as a kind of yearly reset button. It's like we give ourselves permission to imagine a better version of ourselves.
Exactly. But here's the funny part. Even though I love setting resolutions, I often don't achieve all of them. And I've realized it's not because I'm lazy, but because sometimes I set goals that are too vague or unrealistic.
That's such an important point. For example, saying, I want to get healthy is too general. What does healthy even mean? Does it mean exercising 3 times a week? Eating more vegetables? Sleeping 8 hours? Unless we make it specific, it's hard to track progress.
Right! And also, sometimes people set too many goals at once, like 10 different resolutions, then they feel overwhelmed. Right, so instead of saying, I'll wake up at 5 a.m. every day, maybe the resolution should be, I'll set aside 1 uninterrupted hour for focused work.
Exactly. Productivity isn't about working more hours, it's about working smarter.
Yes! And, sometimes people confuse being busy with being productive.
Oh, that's a big one. People feel proud of answering 100 emails or attending endless meetings, but that doesn't always mean progress.
So, a good career resolution could be, I'll focus on the tasks that matter most instead of filling my time with distractions.
Yes, prioritization is key. One method I like is the 80-20 rule, focusing on the 20% of tasks that bring 80% of results.
That's brilliant. And I think another helpful resolution could be about learning. For example, I'll learn 1 new skill that can improve my career.
Yes, continuous learning is so powerful. Whether it's taking an online course, improving communication skills, or learning a new tool, those small investments really pay off.
Do you have a personal example of that?
Actually, yes. A few years ago, I made a resolution to improve my public speaking. I was terrified of speaking in front of groups. So I joined a local speaking club, practiced regularly, and by the end of the year, I was much more confident. Yes, that's the classic trap. Instead of focusing on one or two meaningful goals, people overload themselves, and when they can't keep up with everything, they give up entirely.
That's amazing. And it probably opened up a lot of opportunities for you.
It did, and it all started with one resolution: improve a skill.
That inspires me. You know, I've been thinking about improving my writing skills this year, not just casual writing, but professional writing, like emails, reports, and proposals.
That's a fantastic goal. Clear writing is such a valuable career skill. And again, you don't need to say, I'll write a book this year. You could start with, I'll write for 15 minutes a day. Or, I'll read one well-written article daily and take notes.
Yes, that feels doable.
Another area people focus on is time management.
Oh, yes, that's huge. Everyone wants to manage time better, but the funny thing is, time can't really be managed. Only our priorities can.
Exactly. And one small but powerful resolution is, I'll plan my day the night before. It takes 5 minutes, but it makes a huge difference.
That's true. I've tried that, and I noticed my mornings felt calmer because I wasn't scrambling to figure out what to do.
Yes, it removes decision fatigue.
So, Alex, what about you? Do you set New Year's resolutions? I think another important career resolution could be about networking. People often ignore it, but building professional relationships is crucial.
Absolutely. A resolution like, I'll reach out to one new person in my industry every month can make a big impact.
I love that. It feels manageable. Not overwhelming, but still effective.
So if we summarize some good career and productivity resolutions, they might be: focus on high priority tasks, not just staying busy. Learn one new skill. Improve one weakness, like communication or writing. Plan your day the night before. Network consistently.
That's a powerful list.
And just like with health resolutions, the key is to start small and be consistent.
Exactly. Now, after career, I think another big category of resolutions is about money and finances.
Oh yes, the famous "this year I'll save more money" resolution.
Yes, let's talk about that. So, Alex, money resolutions are probably one of the most common ones after health and career. I feel like almost everyone says, this year I'll save more, or I'll finally make a budget.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes sense because finances affect so many areas of our lives, from reducing stress to giving us more freedom to do the things we love. I do, but I try to keep it simple. For example, last year my resolution was to read more books. I didn't say, I'll read one book every week. Instead, I just told myself, I'll read at least 15 minutes a day. That way, even if I was busy, I could still keep the habit. And you know what? I ended up reading more books than I expected.
That's true. But money resolutions are also tricky because people often set them in very vague terms, like, I'll save money. But without specifics, it's hard to actually follow through.
Exactly. If you just say, I'll save money, how much are you saving? By when? For what purpose? A better resolution would be, I'll save 10% of my income every month, or I'll put aside $100 each week.
Yes, and I think attaching a purpose to the savings helps too. Like, instead of just saying save, you could say, I'll save $1,000 for a vacation, or I'll save for an emergency fund.
That's a great point. When savings have a clear purpose, it feels motivating. Otherwise, people just end up dipping into their savings without much thought.
Exactly. You know, I once tried the No Spend January challenge where you only buy essentials. It was tough, but I actually learned a lot about my spending habits.
That sounds interesting. Did you succeed?
Almost. I slipped a couple of times. I couldn't resist a sale on books, but overall I realized how many small, unnecessary purchases I was making.
That's the beauty of challenges like that. Even if you don't do them perfectly, they raise awareness.
Yes! And I think awareness is the first step because sometimes we don't even know where our money is going.
Exactly. Which is why tracking expenses can be such a powerful resolution. Even just writing down every purchase for a month can be eye-opening.
Wow, that's impressive. And it shows how making small, specific habits can lead to bigger results. Yes, I tried that once, and I was shocked at how much I spent on takeout coffee.
You and me both. I once calculated that I was spending more on coffee in a month than on my internet bill.
Wow! That really shows the importance of small daily habits.
Yes, financial health is built on small, consistent choices, just like physical health.
Another popular resolution is to reduce debt. People often say, "This year I'll get out of debt."
Yes, and again, it needs to be specific. For example, I'll pay an extra $50 towards my credit card each month. That's much more concrete.
Right! And celebrating small progress helps too. Paying off even one small loan can motivate you to keep going.
Exactly. And let's not forget about investing. Many people make resolutions to start investing, but they feel intimidated.
Yes, investing sounds complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Even starting small with simple things like a retirement account or index funds can be a great step.
Absolutely. A good resolution could be, I'll read one beginner-friendly book on investing, or I'll invest $50 a month. Exactly. And that's why today, as we talk about New Year's resolutions, I want us to break it down step by step. Why people fail, how to make better ones, and how to stay consistent.
That's manageable. And it's not just about growing money, it's about building confidence in financial decisions.
Yes, and financial literacy is one of the best investments anyone can make.
So, if we summarize good financial resolutions, they could be: track expenses for at least 1 month. Save a fixed percentage or amount regularly. Set a clear purpose for savings. Reduce debt step by step. Start small with investing or financial education.
That's a powerful list.
And just like with other resolutions, the key is small, consistent steps instead of big, unrealistic promises.
Exactly. Now we've covered health, career, and money. Another big area people focus on is relationships and social life.
Yes! Because a new year often makes people think about the quality of their friendships, family connections, or even romantic relationships.
Perfect. Let's dive into that next.
So, Alex, relationships are definitely another area where people set resolutions. Sometimes it's about spending more time with family, sometimes it's about making new friends, and sometimes it's even about improving communication with a partner.
Yes, that's a big one. I think people realize at the start of a new year that relationships really shape their happiness. You can have all the money, success, and fitness in the world, but if your relationships are weak, you feel empty.
Perfect. And along the way, we can share our own funny stories of failed resolutions. That's so true. I once read that the longest study on happiness found that the biggest factor wasn't wealth or fame, but strong relationships.
Yes, I know the one you mean. The Harvard study that's been running for decades. It found that people who had close, supportive relationships lived healthier, happier, and even longer lives.
Exactly. Which means resolutions about relationships should never be underestimated.
So, what kind of resolutions do people make in this category?
Well, I think one common one is I'll spend more quality time with my family, but again, it needs to be specific. For example, we'll have dinner together without phones at least 3 times a week.
Yes, that makes it more real. Another one could be I'll call my parents once a week, or I'll plan one outing with friends every month.
That's beautiful. And for couples, a good resolution might be we'll go on a date night twice a month or we'll practice listening without interrupting.
Oh, yes, listening is underrated. Sometimes just being fully present makes a huge difference.
And for friendships, I think a lot of people want to reconnect with old friends. Life gets busy and people drift apart.
Yes, sending a simple message like, "Hey, I was thinking about you. How have you been?" can reignite a friendship. Oh, I have plenty of those.
Exactly. And even making new friends can be a resolution, for example, joining a club, volunteering, or attending community events.
Yes, and relationships aren't just about others. They're also about the relationship with yourself.
Oh, that's deep.
Well, think about it. If you don't take care of yourself, it's hard to show up fully for others. So resolutions like, I'll practice self-care or I'll speak kindly to myself are also important.
That's so true. Many people are kind to others but very harsh on themselves.
Well, Mia, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I feel inspired to look at my own resolutions with a fresh perspective.
Me too, Alex. And I hope our listeners feel encouraged to make resolutions that are realistic, meaningful, and joyful.
Yes, remember, the new year isn't about becoming a completely different person overnight. It's about small, steady steps toward the life you want.
Exactly. And every day is a chance to start again.
That's the perfect note to end on. Thank you, Mia, and thank you to everyone listening. We wish you all a happy new year filled with growth, love, and success.
Me too. Okay, so where should we start? Happy New Year, everyone!
Let's begin with the psychology of resolutions. Why humans feel this strong urge to start fresh at the beginning of a year.
That's an interesting question, Alex. Why do people feel so motivated at the start of the year?
Well, psychologists call it the fresh start effect. Basically, when a new year begins, people feel like they've been given a clean slate. It's symbolic. The old year is gone, the calendar resets, and suddenly you feel like you can reset your life too.
Oh, yes, that makes sense. It's like when you get a brand new notebook. You feel excited to keep it neat and tidy, at least for the first few pages.
Exactly. And that motivation can be very powerful. The problem is, it doesn't last unless we build structure around it.
So that's why gyms are full in January but half empty by March?
Yes, that's the classic example. People sign up, buy new workout clothes, and they're super enthusiastic. But without consistent habits, the excitement fades away.
You know, I read somewhere that about 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. Isn't that shocking?
It is, but it also shows us something important. Willpower alone is not enough. We need systems, reminders, and accountability.
So if someone says, I'll stop eating junk food, but then they keep chips and soda in their house, they're making it harder for themselves.
Exactly. Environment plays a huge role. If your surroundings support your goal, you're more likely to succeed.
That reminds me of my failed resolution from last year. I said I'd drink less coffee, but then every morning the first thing I did was walk into the kitchen and see my coffee machine smiling at me.
Oh no, the coffee machine temptation.
Yes, and of course I gave in. After 2 weeks, I was back to 3 cups a day.
And that's totally human. Which is why, instead of just relying on motivation, people need strategies. For example, replacing habits instead of removing them.
You mean like switching coffee with green tea?
Exactly. That way, you're not just cutting something out, you're giving yourself an alternative.
That's really smart. You know, one of my new resolutions this year is to practice mindfulness. But instead of saying, I'll meditate 1 hour every day, which sounds scary, I've started with just 5 minutes.
That's perfect. Small, achievable steps. And here's the secret. Small habits compound over time. 5 minutes today can become 10 minutes next month, and by the end of the year, you'll have built a strong routine.
Yes, and it feels less intimidating.
Exactly. And that's something our listeners can take away too. If your resolution feels overwhelming, break it down into smaller pieces.
I like that. So maybe instead of saying, I'll read 50 books this year, someone can say, I'll read 10 pages a day.
Yes, and that's much more manageable.
You know, I'm curious, Alex, what's the funniest or most unusual resolution you've ever made?
Oh, good question. Okay, don't laugh. But one year I decided my resolution would be to stop losing socks in the laundry.
Wait, what? How is that even a resolution?
I don't know. Well, I was just so frustrated with always having odd socks. I told myself, this year I'll be more organized. I'll keep pairs together.
And did it work?
No. By February, I had already lost 3 socks. I gave up and just started wearing mismatched ones.
That's hilarious, but honestly, it shows that sometimes our goals can be too silly. or not meaningful enough to stick.
Exactly, which is another important lesson. Choose resolutions that truly matter to you. If it's not meaningful, you won't stay committed.
That's so true. For example, I once made a resolution to learn how to bake bread. I thought it sounded fun, but I wasn't really passionate about it. After one attempt, I never touched it again.
See? If the resolution isn't connected to your values or interests, it just fades away.
So maybe the real secret is to ask yourself, why do I want this resolution?
Yes, if you know your why, you'll have more motivation.
Okay, let's make this practical for our listeners. What do you think are the top 3 steps to making a resolution stick?
Great idea. Let's break it down. 1. Be specific. Don't say, I want to be healthier. Say, I'll walk 30 minutes every evening. 2. Start small. Instead of aiming for something huge, begin with tiny habits. 3. Stay accountable. Share your resolution with a friend, track your progress, or even reward yourself.
I love that. And I think we can add a 4th one. Be kind to yourself. Because sometimes people give up after one mistake, but failure is part of the process.
That's a brilliant addition, Mia. One bad day doesn't mean the resolution is ruined. It just means you're human.
Exactly.
So, let's continue by talking about the different categories of resolutions people usually make: health, career, relationships, money, personal growth, and so on.
Yes! That will be fun. We can go category by category, share common resolutions, and discuss how to actually make them work.
Perfect. Let's start with the most popular one, health resolutions.
All right, health resolutions are definitely the most common. I feel like almost everyone has said at some point, this year I'll exercise more or I'll eat healthier.
Oh, absolutely. Gyms love January because memberships skyrocket. But by March or April, most people stop going.
Yes, I've been guilty of that too. I remember one year I bought a 6-month gym membership in January. I went regularly for 2 weeks, then I skipped a day, then a week, and by the 3rd month, I completely stopped.
That's so relatable. And it shows how consistency is more important than intensity. People often start too strong, like going to the gym every single day, lifting heavy weights or running miles, and then they burn out.
Right! Maybe it's better to start with something simple like walking 20 minutes a day.
Exactly. I always say, don't underestimate small actions. If you walk 20 minutes every day for a year, that's over 120 hours of walking. That's way better than going hard for 2 weeks and quitting.
That's so true. And you know what else? Sleep is also part of health, but people forget about it.
Yes! Everyone talks about diet and exercise, but sleep is like the hidden foundation. Without good sleep, you can't focus, you feel tired, and your body doesn't recover properly.
Exactly. I once tried to wake up at 5 a.m. every day because I read somewhere that successful people wake up early. But since I was still going to bed late, I was just exhausted.
Oh, I've done the same. I forced myself to wake up early without fixing my bedtime. And you're right, it just makes you miserable.
So, maybe a realistic health resolution could be, I'll go to bed 30 minutes earlier each night.
Yes, that's specific, small, and achievable.
Speaking of diet, I think that's another area where people make big resolutions like, I'll never eat sugar again or I'll go vegan overnight.
True, and that's tough because drastic changes rarely last. Instead, gradual changes are more sustainable. For example, I'll replace soda with water 3 times a week.
I like that. Or, I'll eat at least one fruit every day.
Exactly. These small adjustments build long-term habits, and the key is to focus on adding good habits rather than only restricting.
That's a really good point. Instead of saying I won't eat fries, maybe say I'll add more vegetables to my meals.
Yes, positive framing makes it feel less like punishment and more like growth.
You know, Alex, I think the reason people fail with health resolutions is because they see it as short-term punishment instead of long-term lifestyle change.
That's spot on. If you say, I'll diet until I lose 10 pounds, then after losing those pounds, you stop and the weight comes back. But if you say, I'll make healthier choices as part of my life, it becomes sustainable.
Exactly.
So, if we were to give listeners some practical health resolutions, they could be: walk or stretch daily. Sleep earlier by even 15 to 30 minutes. Drink more water. Add fruits and vegetables gradually. Reduce screen time before bed.
I love that list, and here's something else. Mental health should also be part of health resolutions.
Yes, that's very important.
Because sometimes people only think about physical health, but mental well-being matters too. For example, practicing gratitude, journaling, or limiting social media can make a big difference.
You're right. Actually, one of my resolutions this year is to practice mindfulness. Not hours of meditation, just small moments, like putting my phone away during meals or taking 5 deep breaths when I feel stressed.
That's beautiful. I think listeners will connect with that.
So health resolutions aren't only about exercise and diet, they're about balance.
Exactly. Body, mind, and lifestyle all together.
Now, since health is such a big category, I think we've covered the essentials. Should we move on to another popular area of resolutions?
Yes, let's do that. The next big one has to be career and productivity resolutions.
Perfect, because so many people start the year saying, I'll work harder, get promoted, or learn new skills.
Yes, and I have a lot to say about that too. All right, Alex, let's dive into career and productivity resolutions. I think this is another area where people get really ambitious.
Absolutely. At the start of the year, people often say things like, this year I'll get a promotion, or I'll start my own business, or I'll be more productive and waste less time.
Yes, I've made similar ones myself. For example, one year I promised to wake up at 5 a.m. every day to get extra work done.
And did it work?
Not really. For the first week, I felt like a superhero. But by the second week, I was exhausted and cranky. And instead of being more productive, I actually got less done because I was tired all the time.
That's such a classic story, and it shows us that career resolutions need to be realistic, just like health resolutions.